Hi, welcome to, we're going to play Red Markets, a game of economic commerce and zombie survival in the near future after a catastrophic pandemic. No one can think of something like that, right? And an economic crash. That's no chance of that happening, right? But anyways, welcome to the world of the loss and the recession. We're going to be playing a 9-part series of Red Markets. This is session 1. We have done off-screen character creation and safety tools. This game is scheduled as the Gauntlet. You can sign up on the Gauntlet calendar. You can check out our website, Gauntlet-RPG. I always assume that if you're watching this, you must know what the Gauntlet is, frankly. But check it out. This is the first run of Red Markets on the Gauntlet. May not be the last. But with me running it, it may well put people off forever. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead. And I have all of these lovely players who I'm not going to do the usual thing of introduce yourself until we get round to doing the rest of our characters. What we're going to do instead is we're going to start off with Enclave Creation. We are going to make our enclave and the world that we're living in. Now, I did mention before to these guys that my vague idea for the enclave I would like to run Red Markets on the Gauntlet is located outside the fictional Midwest city of New Gauntlet City, because that way it ties in with Gauntlet comics, and we're also not locked down to any particular kind of location, right? And I believe we have people here who are very familiar with the Midwest. So I will defer to them in every aspect when it comes to, my major takeaways of the Midwest is relatively flat, spacious. The Mississippi River runs not too far away from it, right? Well, depending on the part of it, which is, the border between the safe world that will shoot you if you come anywhere near it and the world that you've been living in for the last 5 years. But, you're within a good distance of the city that, the hordes of undead that must live within aren't an immediate threat, but you are close enough that you could go in there, right? If a job might call for it, who knows? But those are our basic points, right? So let us go over to, if everyone could please go to the Enclave and NPC tab. And we will start off with our location. I need to move my Zoom windows so that I have an order that I can see you in, because at the moment I'm currently in the middle, which is useless for choosing who to speak first, right? The location. And I'd like everyone, as we go through the Enclave generation, it's going to be someone says he gets to choose first dibs. I'll pass it on to the next person, and then they get first dibs on the next one. And we're all collaborative world builders, and we've played with all these things. You can chime in, build on each other's stuff, right? But people get first say. The only one that I want everyone to be fully on board 100% with is the starting location. What was your enclave? What is it built around, right? And I'd like to hear from Paul first, because my order is Paul, Horst, Lowell, Jim is my view of the Zoom windows. So if we could go around that, and we could take suggestions about where the prison is, the location, sorry. Letting slip what I would choose as an enclave, right?
I'm thinking some sort of summer camp for children that's located on an island. So lots of outdoor activities, sort of thing.
Okay.
Maybe in the middle of a lake or something like that.
Okay, a lake, like a summer camp on
Summer
a lake.
camp. That's yeah.
Okay. Horst, do you have anything to add to that, or disagreements or anything about that?
Yeah, my only problem with that is, isn't that too safe almost? Because they will never reach us across the lake. I don't know if the enclave is at any time in danger, but if there's an option, it could be in danger. A lake seems to be a bit lame.
Oh, I mean,
zombies don't breathe. They can just go under the water and then come up.
Oh, they can?
No, the zombies get waterlogged. In fact, that's the reason why the Mississippi was chosen, is because the zombies do not. But I will say that there aren't just zombies to worry about, right? And a lake is great, but also there's very little way off a lake like that.
Yeah,
are.
the thing about a lake is that you're protected because it's really hard to get on, which also means it's really hard to get off as well.
And
Yeah.
I think when we come to the exports, like things that you don't have enough of, right? Like it screams out to me that anything that's on a lake is going to be pretty screwed when it comes to farming land. That kind of stuff is all going to be beyond the walls at the end of the day. But I agree with you that, like, you know, that's the thing. Would you have an alternative suggestion, or?
So if it's the Midwest, one of the most ubiquitous features on the Midwest is the highway rest stop. If you have ever crossed the U.S. on the interstates, the states have these, you know, basically it's like a big building. It's got 3 or 4 restaurants. It's got a gas station. It's got restrooms. If it's an actual truck stop, it would have like showers and stuff.
We have service stations in Europe as well. I know they are a bit bigger in the US, and historically they were, you know, more than they are now, right? Like, but yeah. So the two things are a summer camp on a lake or a highway rest stop.
What kind of population are we talking? Like, how do we have a sense of how many people have to live in this? Like, or is that something we're deciding?
I think it comes out through like what you choose as your overall things, right? Like, I think that you want at least like 100 or more people at the end of the day, right? There should be enough people that you don't intimately know everyone, but small, you know, we're not talking full, you know, big enclaves are thousands of people. The average enclave, you know, the small, what to be earned an enclave rather than just like a holdout or something, right? You're talking upwards of 50 minimum.
Yeah, I didn't want to shoot down the idea with a lake and the island. I just wanted to clarify. Maybe we could have some kind of connection to the like a bridge or something that is barricaded off.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a land thing for it to be a summer camp properly. I'm not imagining the place in A Quiet Place 2 where you have to take a boat across together.
Yeah. I mean, like summer camp is great because that's kind of optimized for, you know, like probably a couple of hundred people. There's going to be, you know, there'll be cooking facilities. There'll be all that kind of stuff. So that's
summer camp on a lake.
Fine. Yeah.
On a lake islet, I guess. Like, so. I've got all your character sheets open, which means that I look and can't see what it is I'm going for. Enclave and NPCs. So the location was summer camp on a lake islet.
Are we substituting in the lake for the walls? Is that what's going on?
That's what it feels like to me, right? Is the walls are...
We have a moat instead of walls.
Mm-hmm. So it was like a youth camp, right? Why is this all in bold?
Yeah.
Youth camp with a is it a man-made or a land bridge, do we think?
I think it has to be man-made.
Yeah. With a bridge connecting it to the mainland. So like lodges, activity areas, you know, etc.
Places to sing Kumbaya, etc.
Yes.
etc.
Little amphitheater, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably a bigger, more reinforced activity center with like the dining hall and where they had food storage and admin offices and that kind of thing. The generator.
And nurse's office.
Nice. Well, we can flesh some of that out further on, but we've got an idea in our head. It's that kind of thing. Remember that it's been 5 years since effectively the end of the world, right? So that campsite is picked clean at this point, you know, a long time ago. Now, actually, you know what? Now that we've got that, do we want to come up with an enclave name? We can always change it as we go on, just to make it easier to shorthand reference, like Camp Chupacabra or something. Camp Gauntlet.
Man, I really want it to have been a former Christian summer camp that has a like deeply ironic name about like hope and redemption.
Oh, what about Camp Lazarus?
Camp Lazarus is fantastic. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Christian youth camp. There we go. Now, surroundings. Who or what is
How about a youth reform camp?
Christian Youth Reform Camp. Perfect. Because you know what that means? It means that there's a bunch of people who were teenagers when the crash happened and are still here, right? Like 5 years later. And maybe didn't have anyone who gave a shit about them really at the end of the day.
Why we have two believers in the group.
yes, entirely, yes. One of whom is Catholic, right? The Catholic aspect of it, by the way, is, you know, some of them are super Catholic, others of them are just like, I need to level the scores because the only thing that counts to me is making sure that those dead things pay, like whatever. So I actually, you know, it occurs to me that we don't need to do these necessarily in order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Horse if you would like to choose something and write it down. And you know what, like you can choose from the prompts, you can make up your own thing. The notes basically give an idea of what I'm looking for those areas. Surroundings was technically supposed to be like the region and the geography and stuff. When I thought about it more, I thought, you know what, it could also be like rival enclaves, right? Or rival groups that are in the area. So, you know, because things will come out in play as well in those senses. And I didn't want to nail down the geography too hard, given that, you know, from my understanding as well, vast swathes of the Midwest are also just uninterrupted flat terrain, which is not the most exciting thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of farmland, so.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That wasn't a dig at the Midwest, I'm just saying.
But would it also be something like infrastructure, like an airport or like a
It
mall?
could totally be something like that, yeah, entirely, yeah. And, you know, there's something about them could be a chance to say that it's an enclave in a mall, or it's an abandoned mall, or it was, you know, whatever, right? Like, it's your chance to do it. And anybody else is free to, you know, pop up and add something onto that as we go.
So to the airport.
Yeah. An airport. Now, something about them. You know, you can pass that on to around the table, or you can take a pop at it first, and we can see if anybody else wants to add anything else onto that. And you guys feel free to put it in.
I'll pass it on to Lowell.
So it's probably a regional airport, and probably that means it's like a FedEx or a UPS hub, which means that they've got a lot of like the like transport hangars and things like that. So it's they don't have very much in the terms of the like amenities that an airport might have. It's a real, you know, there's a couple of check-in desks and maybe there was a gift shop, and that's been torn up by this point. But
maybe a few like private owners kind of thing are able to take off from there, but it's not going to have like a terminal and everything.
Yeah,
right? It's like, you know.
Yeah, real basic.
We don't really have like
terminal,
a comparative thing in most of Europe, but I know what you mean. Always makes me think of the Stephen King story, The Night Flyer.
Yeah, very much like that.
Okay, so regional delivery hub. Jim, you know, what about this has changed since the crash?
Let's take a look.
I mean, you know, at the moment we're just looking at the airport, I think.
Too many tabs. Oh, we're just talking about the airport.
Yeah, you could just say that no one's been there, you know, or like. If you don't have anything, it's fine. We can just move on. I just thought it'd be interesting to see, do you think that it's become an enclave? Do you think that it's like overwhelmed with casualties who desperately try to land there or whatever, right? Like,
I mean,
no.
Yeah, I don't.
Don't worry about it. I don't want to push
right
people
second. Yeah.
No. I totally want people to just say like, I don't have anything. Let's move on. Don't feel like you failed or anything like that, right? Like, so another surrounding place. I'll go to Lowell.
Got that out there. So.
Or in fact, choose anywhere you want to choose. A defense, something about the walls, another
Actually,
defense.
I had an idea
group.
for the exports and surpluses.
Yeah.
I imagine that there, if it's a Christian youth camp, especially a Reform youth camp, there's a lot of find God through work. So I imagine that we actually had like several like woodworking and metalworking and those kinds of shops on site. And so we're able to like take stuff and make some finished goods out of them. We're able to repair things, fix up things, make stuff that we can trade out. So repair and modest finished goods there from a woodworking shop.
Woodworking?
Yeah. Like I would say wood shop, like metal shop kind of thing.
Yeah. So if you put on exports on the next column, finished goods, and then there's something about them can be a woodworking and metal shop, right? So we have an idea of what we mean by finished goods. It's not going to include like we can manufacture cars or we can repair like big things, but we can do, small things. Perfect. And then, does anyone else have anything they would like to add to that?
I think that if this is a Reform youth camp, one thing that you can grow without a lot of space, in a patch behind one of the cabins, is dope.
I like that a lot. So I think that goes into the next export, and that is drugs.
Weed. Marijuana. Yeah.
Something about that marijuana, and I would dearly love to see the VIP who, made the marijuana patch and keeps it running and owns that little corner of the Enclave's trade.
Yeah.
Because as well, like. I think it has to be good stuff, right? Like good stuff, because this is the 5 years after the crash. You want to grow dope in your back garden, like you can do. The feds ain't gonna come and solve this. The feds are all hiding behind the Mississippi, so this has got to be like cream of shit.
Yeah, like LZ Omega or something like that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you write that in. Is everyone cool with that? Yeah. Paul, would you like to define something else?
I think for surroundings, I'm going to go for a dark and foreboding forest.
Nice. So that's nearby, right? There is a patch of woodland and forest, which makes sense because we were on a summer camp, right? So there was somewhere, and probably as part of the camp's works, you have peeled back some of the forest around the immediate area. But you can't patrol the forest that size and that shape, right? So, dark and foreboding forest. Something about them? I mean, just a brief description of however you would like to put it,
What you want me to type in?
Yeah, feel free. I mean, whatever you'd like it to be there. Maybe there's more of the camp in the forest, right? Like places that people, you know what I mean? Not like, but like what they would have done on day trips and stuff, like activity centers and things. God knows what's happened.
Yeah, there might like if it's, especially if it's like a national park or something like that. Certainly that there might be a souvenir stand or something like that, whatever, like a visitor center.
I'm going to put rest stops and visit center.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, nice. So we know that it's not just a scrabble of trees in the corner, right? Like there was some settlements and things in there beforehand, which currently are not of a major enough impact upon the area to have more definition, right? Unless you say that, like, oh, the ranger station where the park rangers live, and they're real douchebags, you know. Cool. Then over to Horst again for something.
Well, I mean, the social structure. I was thinking some kind of religious order, or is that too much? Like the
So it doesn't have to be like everybody's, but maybe the religious order is the primary group in the area. You know what I mean? Like there are normal people who live in Black Mountain enclaves, you know.
But I mean, who puts down the rules, or who started the whole thing? I would assume the people who ran the camp.
Yeah, I mean, you can, if you assume that that's what happens, if you're saying that the Reformed kids didn't slit the throat of their chaplain and lead them to glory, right? Like, it's entirely up to you. I'm sorry, I'll just step away while you think about that.
Yeah, that's okay. Something. I mean, maybe we can talk, the four of us, about it.
I'm happy for evil nuns. That's fine.
Yeah. I would like kind of a split, like maybe that we have a population of the sort of real believer Christian camp counselors and things like that, but then we've got a population of the kids who didn't want to be reformed and who survived, and the hippie camp people who were raising the pot, and maybe like a kind of maybe some tension between the churchies and the hippies.
I like it. I don't know if you have them in the United States as well. Probably. They're called the Jesus freaks.
Oh yeah, that's exactly, yeah.
What? You don't think the United States has?
They
Jesus
came
freaks?
probably. They come from.
They're evangelicals. They're real Protestants, as my wife would say dismissively at me.
Yeah.
Come to Northern Ireland and let's say that. Yeah.
No. See, in the U.S., our Protestants, we subdivide. So, like the second that you don't like your pastor, you break off and make another church, and then that breaks off and makes another church till you get like 40 or 50 different denominations in the same neighborhood.
Factionalism is American to us. Splitters. Yeah.
Very popular in the Netherlands as well. Like every village has their own prophet that interprets the Bible in a different way.
So what we're saying is the social structure has a...
we talked about the population groups, I think, actually.
Oh, population groups now.
Like churchies and hippies are at least two of the major groups.
So should we just put that in, churches? Are we happy with filling up both populations? Because they're not everybody, remember. They're just like the bulk of the significant people, right? And the churches and the hippies, right? And so we say something about them is that the churches were the ones who ran Camp Lazarus, and the hippies are the ones who fed Camp Lazarus.
Yeah, them and the kids who were here to be fixed and have kind of gone over to that side of things. So a little counterculture there.
The ones who fed Camp Lazarus and most of the Reformed kids. Yeah, the Reformed kid defectors.
I like Paul's mentioning of the evil nuns. So maybe the church.
Yeah, it should be a nun or two.
Oh well, I have a nun picture with a baseball bat, and I have. Surprisingly, pastors with reverends with shotguns are a very common piece of art on Pinterest. So there's a fair few of those for exactly this situation. Oh man, I love it, especially like the primo weed being sold there, right? Like, nice. Yeah. By the way, the two pics on the right are just two broad pics for your thing. Lowell knows how much I love Miro boards. I fully have every intention of, once we flash this out, I'm going to make a Miro board with the camp, and then I'm going to drop in like places just so we can at a glance see New Gauntlet cities, surrounding environments and survivors.
They now have a Miro app integration for Zoom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just added apps this last week.
Nice.
I dropped a picture in that I really like of, you can see there's like cabins on a lake there, but I love there's that little scale lighthouse, because that's like such a
that's perfect.
Yeah,
like dumb thing.
That's like, yeah. Well, I mean, like, and it's a Christian thing, and it's a like, that's like every year it's a project to to refurbish it and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it doesn't actually do anything, but but it's symbolic.
As yet,
and
right?
all that
I
stuff.
mean, who knows? Like, maybe you like the beacon, and will Gondor come for your aid? Like that kind of thing. That was that was technically horse turn still, but we've yeah, I like that.
It's a drift from the social structure, but I think it works very well.
Yeah. The social structure is the one that I thought was actually the more complicated one to do, frankly. I was tempted to merge those boxes and just have like a couple of sentences like, if rules are enforced by, people pay their way here, blah, 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 like whatever. So Lowell, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I think, and it kind of reflects something that Paul said before. I think the other defense that we have is there's probably one on the island, and there's probably one close by on the mainland of like ranger towers. So we've got a couple of reinforced, really, really strong, like watchtowers.
And are they on the island?
I think there's like one on the island, and then like not too far away near the bridge on the mainland, there's another one. Like maybe they put one up for the camp and then one for actually the real rangers.
Mm-hmm. Camp tower on the island, ranger tower.
Yeah.
On the mainland near the bridge, right?
Yeah, because they have them for spotting forest fires.
Forest fires and all kinds of general stuff. So
yeah, I forget what that indie game was where you play a wood ranger and you look at the fire and it's all storytelling and stuff. Yeah. I can't remember what it's called.
Firewatch.
Yeah.
Probably a cell tower attached to that too.
Oh well, I mean, so one of the conceits of red markets is that you never
heard of those
aloft things, like where they ran the cloud via like weather balloons, basically. In the world of red markets, before the crash, some mad legitimate like Tony Stark type, basically
Elon Musk.
Yeah, but like Elon Musk,
but not evil.
Not evil, like an actual good one who didn't try to go to space and leave the peasants behind, but tried to improve, the world basically. And he put all this infrastructure up into the air, and it still persists to this day because it's just using drones, solar panels, and things to keep going and floating up. And the network is not under the government's control, but everybody relies on that because when all of the, the conventional networks went down, this was still there, and it had an incredibly good like compression and stuff. So there's internet pretty much everywhere you go, other than where the DM decides to screw with you. So yeah.
To be totally fair to Elon Musk, I think it's exactly what he did, like the Starlink.
It's exactly what he pitched. And Google gave this a trial run in Africa as well, which is where the idea came from. But anyways, Jim. Any extra stuff you'd like to add on? Imports and scarcities, something about the social structure?
I mean, I like the idea that the social structure carries over from the camp, and that basically, like, I mean, that the social structure is camps, like, there's 20 people are your like camp, whatever, your Camp Noah, and then like there's 4 cabins there and we live 5 to a cabin or something like that, and I mean, I don't know how
cabin states.
Yes, yeah, like that.
A federation of cabin states.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how cozy we want to be, but I kind of like the idea that, like, we all live in a cabin together. And that's one of the things that, that
Could
we
well
have
be,
to,
right?
Yeah, negotiate like personal space as well as going out on our runs together.
Yeah. So, and when we think of the cabin states, like they can be like a cabin and then camps, like tents and things, like set up alongside shanties. Again, it's 5 years, right? So like this campsite has its core structure, but has changed dramatically in terms of what we would perceive, right? And it's probably fairly overcrowded on this island compared to what it's meant to be, right? So a federation of cabin states of various sizes as part of the social structure. Back up to Paul. Anything you would like to add on?
Not for social structures, unless.
No. I mean, at this point, I'm going to just jump back and forth. And if you want to expand a bit more on the social structure, or if you want to define the import or scarcity, that's anyone feel free. Because I feel the social structure is made up of all of these overlapping pieces, really, at the end of the day.
It is, but I'd like something that nuns are held in high regard, or they have the casting vote, or form some other body of leadership.
Yeah, so a federation of cabin states of various sizes, principal among them, the Sisters of Lazarus, let's say, because that's a cool name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm stepping in a bit here, but I kind of like the idea of the camp councils being like the councilors. Like each cabin state is headed by a councillor, right? And the Sisters of Lazarus, of course, perhaps, they have dozens of councillors to everybody else's like one kind of thing. It's the voting block that you have to get round to get anything over them. A council structure, with councillors.
Each camp has a council representative.
Mm-hmm.
On the
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, but they're like the camp councillors, right? Like. Cool.
I feel like one of our scarcities, given everything we've set up so far, would be entertainment. Like, they're not going to want us, like wasting our time with, like, I can't imagine this is a place that when we first, like when it first got set up, there were big piles of comic books or, the Xboxes sitting around or anything like that. So I feel like it's probably thin on the ground in terms of, ways to pass our time that is not like working or, going out on jobs.
Yeah. So entertainment.
I think that scarcity should also really hurt. And I mean, boo-hoo, we don't have comic books.
Well, okay, except that if you are punished for having them,
it becomes a black market.
Yeah, that's
also
like if it's like it's sorry, not just scarcity, but it's contraband.
Yeah. Many forms of pre-crash entertainment are contraband, forbidden.
Does that make it more interesting, Horst?
Definitely much more interesting.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I was thinking about like official import goods, but I love the idea that the nuns run around.
Oh, I mean, everybody will still have, the usual things of we need food. Food is always good. You are still living in the lost. These are just sort of like what key aspects, identify are particular to your camp, right?
And so fuel would also count as the stuff that we have to assume that we need in any case. We don't need to edit.
You don't have much in the way of maybe you don't have solar panels and stuff, right? Like you don't have many of those things. You need fuel to power the generators and the stuff on the camp, right? And it's not people weren't meant to be here over winter, right? And that forest is nearby, but it's not within your control, right? You don't seem to have the facilities to really do much like industrial level logging and things, right? So still fuel. And is that okay? Everything I said there in terms of the generators needed.
Even if you can cut down trees, wood is just heavy and bulky and dirty, and you get splinters, and it's just wood is just a pain in the ass to haul around.
And it's a bad fuel source.
No, it's deeply inefficient. It's terrible, smoky, and makes ash and all that kind of stuff, and it doesn't burn for very long.
Okay. Do we want to say anything more about the social structure? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll ask questions.
I was going to say this is I'd like to maybe kind of tweak or suggest a tweak what Paul had said. If we've got the churchies that are maybe the more populist Protestant Christians, and we've got the hippies, and then we've got other people who've come here. I like the idea that the nuns are really they're the deciding vote. They're the ones that kind of break the ties and make the decisions. Sort of like in the end, if we really want to get something done at the higher scale, we've got to go talk to a nun. And we've got, or if there's tensions between two groups, we've got to go talk to them.
Would almost be like a constitutional monarchy or something, where the monarch actually decides, but you can try to sway them.
Yeah. When we're down to one nun, then it'll be a monarchy. But we've got probably a few of them right now that talks amongst themselves.
Nice.
So if it actually is evangelical, if it's like Protestant, they're not actually going to be nuns, because nuns are Catholic.
Well, and that's what I was thinking. I think that's actually the tension. I think we've got.
Oh, okay. Is it
like we've got these evangelicals, and then we've got these Catholic nuns, and I think there is some weird religious tension there.
Yeah. Although I mean, there is that thing where religious conservatives from different religions have more in common with each other than moderate and conservative co-religionists do. So that's yeah.
So we're going to say that Camp Lazarus, the churches, right? It was a cross-denominational camp, right? But the nuns are the most powerful group among the churches, right? And they've formed this thing because it was Camp Lazarus. It was originally a Catholic camp, right? But then budget cuts and things like that, they had to open the doors to other people. And then there was that state law, that county law that was brought in that said that you couldn't just run a Catholic thing and receive state funds. And people were bitter about that, right? But hey, when hell comes to earth.
Yeah.
You all found your various. You were all like, cool. Some of us were right. Which one? One question I'd like to ask is, how are latents treated here? Latents are people who have taken the vaccine suppressant against it, or they're very lucky in the natural latents. But a latent is somebody who is effectively infected with the blight, but not a zombie. So they are highly contagious. It's the same as like a vector. If they were to scratch you or bite you or bleed on you, everything about them risks infection.
There's totally a little separate island that we put them on.
Latents.
There's a little leopard. There's a latent colony.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's close by, but it is
the lepers. I'm going to say latents.
Yeah, and the nun that tends to them, nobody can say anything bad about her. She's the paragon of virtue.
She could be an immune.
Oh, possibly, yeah.
Yeah, and so that is the other thing I want to ask is immunes. Are immunes, if you were to be open about being an immune here, or do all the nuns claim to be immune?
The nuns claim to be immune.
I like that.
That's great. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So anyone who is immune is basically I'm feeling is pressured to becoming a nun,
They are
or
dra-
effectively like driven out of the
Well,
camp by the pressure.
I think they're dragooned in. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's what I mean.
Or they're sent off to the island to help care for the latents.
Yeah. But there is definitely like a higher, a power structure around that immunity, right? Which makes it something of a sanctuary, but also something of a, oh, fuck, if I go there, then I can't just keep my head down. I'm going to be, yeah. Okay. Are there any, what are who mans the walls? Who's, because you're takers, right? You're people who are crazy enough to go out into the loss and do high risk, high reward things for jobs in the gig economy, right? But there are people who, live back here at the thing, and there are, takers sometimes work the walls, right? Man the defenses, that kind of thing. But who is it who, if you break the rules here, I'm not imagining that the nuns themselves come along with their clubs and beat you down, right? I'm imagining that there's some sort of pan camp sort of, even if it's just the group that's sort of like, that's your responsibility.
My question is that another faction? Do you think about them as like another power group, or should they be under the nuns like jurisdiction?
I think they're under
the lay brothers,
the laymen.
No, the deacons.
Oh, the deacons. Yeah, the deacon. So deacon is a.
Because deacon's a Protestant thing.
Enforce the rules. Yeah. Yeah. So cool. I like that. The deacons man the fences and enforce the rules. And when I say fences, I just mean like, if some casualties bunch up on the other side of the lake, they're the ones who go over and shoot them or whatever, right? And keep the bridge clear and blah, blah, blah. Cool. I like all of that. I'm just gonna. So
shall we flesh out the NPC that is the super virtuous nun on the leper island colony?
Yeah, should we go with that? Let's move on to VIPs and neighborhoods, right? So you would like to suggest the VIP for the immune thing, host? So VIP 1. She is the immune question mark. Maybe she's not. She's just lucky and deluded. Leader, representative for the lepers. Do you have a name for her?
Is anybody like steeped in like Bible knowledge and knows some especially virtuous martyr or something?
Rebecca is a classic Old Testament name.
Nice.
Mother Rebecca.
Mother Rebecca.
Mother Rebecca. Yeah. Yeah. The who does it belong to? Doesn't quite work for people, but I couldn't think of a fudge that works well for it. So I wanted it to be like, if it was a place, who's in charge of it? If it was a thing, then a bit more
Connected to?
Yeah. What is it connected to? Who or what is it connected to? For the leper colony. And then notes could be anything about her that we discover in play, or, like aspects of the character and stuff like that. Mother Rebecca, is she, well, you know what? Young, middle-aged, old? Kind, fierce?
I like middle-aged.
Middle-aged.
That could be around for a while if something terribly goes wrong.
Mm-hmm. Paul, anything about her character?
I'm just thinking the nuns from Blues Brothers. She's evil.
Very stern.
Stern or authoritarian. Either of those two is good.
Yeah, very stern. I mean, she enforces the latent quarantine as well, right? Isn't it like, you have to stay here because that is as the Lord wills it, kind of stuff. Yeah. So are we saying that she's also devout?
Yeah.
Like she truly believes? Because we can have nuns who are just cosplaying effectively, you know? I imagine a lot of people's some people's face were confirmed by what happened. A lot of people's face was shaked by what happened, right?
I'm sure there are cosplay nuns. I haven't met any yet. But
well, you can only hope, right, Paul?
In Canal Street or somewhere like
that. Anybody for anything else?
Can we have Snoop Dogg as VIP too?
No, we can't have Snoop Dogg, but you can have no.
He's VIP.
Yeah, but he died. He was out in California.
But the person who runs the weed farm.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. Who runs the weed farm?
I think he ironically calls himself like father or brother, something. But
yeah, I like brother in particular, right? Because he enjoys the double play of that, right?
Yeah. That
Can we go one further and have Brother Bishop?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? Brother Bishop. The weed farmer. Former camper.
Yeah, I think he was like the like physical manager for the camp. Like he's the person they hired to fix it and kind of run things and do the day-to-day, and like so he was the head, sort of secular counselor.
He was a foreman, right? Like he was kind of like
He's our dude.
Yeah. The handyman, yeah.
Yeah. And something about him. So he's like clearly this was probably a side job. Like this is probably what he was doing the whole time before the crash, right? He already had his
he's done a lot of jobs,
right?
but this is the one he landed in.
Yeah. And that patch behind like the like out on the field towards the back of the island, like perfect. The soil there, and like no one's using it, and the nuns don't go far into here, and some of these kids, man, they've got great stuff. Like
I think he plays up that kind of get along cool dude thing, but I think if you cross him, he will bring a tire iron down on your head.
I like the juxtaposition between what you would expect like a hippie weed farmer to be and the steely undercurrent.
Yeah, hard worker, right?
Yeah.
Like,
he'll be laughing up until the point at which he bashes your head in, kind of thing.
Sounds like a sociopath.
Yeah, he's got like a Papa Bear thing going on. It sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, everyone in power has to be some level of sociopath in this sort, because it's been 5 bloody years where people would have killed each other over a can of beans at some points, right? So, were you going to say something, Paul? Or?
I mean, I wouldn't mind adding to him, plagued by visions.
Ooh, okay.
Again, it works quite well for any kind of adventure.
He seemed as though he was like the secular-y type person. Yeah, we can always have more VIPs. We could have another VIP who does have visions.
I just think it plays quite well that he's not religious, but he's plagued by maybe weed-induced visions.
Hard worker, but prone to drug-fueled flights, drug-fueled visions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a bit unstable as well.
Might be just a hair schizophrenic. That's yeah.
And I'm imagining he has a small posse of guys, right? Like people who like work for him and help him maintain this trade, right? So, and this is camp. Camp Bishop, camp Grow House, camp.
Could be the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Camp Brotherhood. Oh yeah, we'll just call them the Brotherhood. We don't need to call them all camp something or other, right? Like it's just their camp is the Brotherhood. Yeah. Small posse of
apprentices. He calls them apprentices.
I think they're like workers as well as smugglers, right? As drug smugglers.
Yeah. I mean, they work for him, as Jim said. So they're his apprentices.
They're learning a trade.
Just two of them. Cool. I mean, I only put two down because I want to have at least two. We can always add more instead. Does anyone have any suggestions for an Enclave neighborhood? Sorry, I just looked at mother and said motherhood instead.
I think there's in the classic mode, there's got to be another camp across the lake.
Oh, so an area of this is a landmark within the Enclave. So there is a place across the lake, an Enclave neighborhood.
Oh! I understand. Sorry, I misunderstood. This is like another Enclave. You're talking within the. Okay. There's absolutely like an amphitheater,
an amphitheater.
Yeah, like a place for where they used to have skits and whatever and stuff. But it's enough that we can all sit down and have a a revival meeting or a mass or whatever version of those things we do.
Where the council meets, right?
I don't think the council meets in the amphitheater.
No, where the council.
But if they have anything public, then
where the council declares, right? Yeah. No, what's it called? That's the thing. What do the camp announcements make? Where camp announcements make, right? Are made over the ramshackle PA system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what is the what is the description of a neighborhood? Is it like the part more like a part of the city?
Yeah, if there's like a slum and a gentrified area, or like where the rich people live. It could be the docks, right? Or like under the bridge, or it could be the leper colony would be a neighborhood, for example. We don't have to, we've got some ideas of some of them. It's just anything that you want to detail in addition to that, because all of these interact with each other in certain ways, right? Brother Bishop, for example, certainly has like his own stretch of land somewhere on the island, right?
I mean, the woodworks or the workshops is probably an area.
Yeah. Are we saying that the amphitheater is neutral ground, really, right? Like it's for everybody? Because there's going to be a lot of times where it's not in use, and I suppose it's the only space that they've left dedicated to just common ground, right? Because you are on an island, so everywhere is going to be, this is our space, you get that much land, you get that. That's all negotiated, bounty bought for, and like all done under the laws and everything, but you need a place just for people, right? And the amphitheater is just where you could go for a walk or whatever, right? Like, because imagine it's quite big and open, being a camp one, right?
Well, and it's probably the only place where like entertainment is allowed, right? So like if you have a acoustic guitar and you want to sing hymns, you could do it at the amphitheater, but they'll be hassling you other places.
It could also be the place for like a weekly market or something, but because you need some kind of open space.
Yeah. Swap meet, yeah.
Otherwise, you've got to go find like the old like pool house shack and get your friends together to play a game of D&D or whatever.
Oh, trust me, I've been thinking of like what jobs could revolve around role-playing games. Like, maybe I don't know, Project Arc never came out, right? Apart from there's one copy hidden in New Gauntlet City. Like, and then someone in the recession will pay a fortune for this.
If I'm running through an apartment building being chased by zombies and I see a copy of Dune D20, I'm going to be like,
oh yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? For the bibliophile, you go past your friendly local gaming store. The workshops, okay. So, woodworking and simple metalwork shops. Who do we have? Like you know, because I was thinking that sometimes the VIPs will double up. You know, like we know about the leper colony.
I
because we've got
imagine
Rebecca.
there is a shop teacher. Like there
Shop
is a guy who's old who oversaw people making birdhouses and, you know, doing stuff and wood burning stuff, and he is still here and he is still yelling at kids.
Okay. So Mr. Did he go by Mr. something, or has he taken like a title?
No, Mr. Something is good.
He insists upon being called it, and people maybe have a nickname for him, right? But like he doesn't like it, and he's like, "That's Mr. Something to you," kind of thing.
I mean, he's a carpenter. Wasn't Jesus a carpenter?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh my God, that's what they call him.
Like, no,
the carpenter. Maybe
Carpenter.
Jesus, I think, is a little bit too on the nose for it. You know, it would cause so much trouble with the many of the people here to call him Jesus behind his back, especially in the white Midwest, right? If this was a Spanish colony, we might have a different story. But yeah,
I think his name is like Mr. Zabo. You know, because it's sort of classic Midwestern immigrant name, but some people call him the Carpenter.
Yeah, he dislikes being called that. And he is old, knowledgeable. What else about him?
Like, I feel like he is very much just because the world is coming to an end doesn't mean you don't have to sand that.
A stickler.
Yes,
yeah. Cool.
You know, and not necessarily like, I like the idea that he's not necessarily like, he's not mean, he's not an ogre, but he's like, that's not done yet.
Nice.
You know, did you countersink those screws? Then it's not done yet.
Nice.
Well, when I've had the same shop teachers, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Measure twice, cut once.
Yes, exactly. Or the same dads. That's, you know, that was a. My dad had a boat shop where he made boats by hand, and that's not something that you jerk around with. You know, that's all. Everything's got to be exactly right with that. So yeah.
You know, so many people try to make boats on the colony, and it's like
it's
sucks.
Really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like we've made our enclave, right? Like, everyone happy with that? If you want to add anything more, well, some things will be added in play. You know, some of the, like, Mr. Zabo might be put in there or whatever, right? We might detail out the latent. If one of you goes latent, we'll 100% be detailing that. But, you know, should we take another 5-minute break, and then we'll do our dependents, and then we'll see what we can do in the last, you know, half hour or so, right? And here is where we will go back to front. And like I said, dependents are people that you have to pay and support, or it will suffer your humanity damage. Everybody's got at least one thing that they care about beyond themselves, right? And, you know, it can be a group of people or it can be a single person. All of you, except from Arbite, are a, you know, fairly uncharismatic bunch, so you all just get one dependent, which you can define however you want. Every session you'll need to meet their upkeep, their bounty, and they should probably feature in your retirement plans at some point, which we will talk about after this as well. So I'd say this is maybe a good time to introduce your character, you know, give me the top-down view of them. Well, should we come up with the Taker crew name first? Which one would people prefer to do? Crew or characters?
You guys are doing the heavy lifting, so you can choose the crew name.
Good pass there. Oh, good pass.
Like the Crusade is one that sort of fits in with the religious theme and the fact that we've got a couple believers.
Crusaders.
No, just the Crusade.
The Crusade. Yeah, I like the Crusade. Anyone have any objections?
But we spell it CREWSAD.
Yeah, because you're a taker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Nice, thank you, Jim. That was awesome.
So, the Crusade. Oops, white on white. Text will not read.
And just a quick note to everybody that someone else needed the other room, so I have moved into their office, and I'm on my laptop now. It should still be recording on my other computer, so we should be fine with all that. But just letting everybody know about the change of venue and the fact that I'm in an extra window here.
Yeah, I hadn't even noticed until you mentioned it, and I was like, oh yeah, I can see two of Jim's face. How lucky am I?
So used to that from Google Hangouts, where it would just like you'd always get double bills.
So we're the Crusade, right? And it feels as though you're not strongly attached to the Catholics or the Protestants or anything, right? You're a ragtag group of people. Does that make sense?
We are strongly attached to the Crusade.
The Crusade, yeah. So, let's do character introduction, and you can introduce your single dependents until we get to Arbite, who will have a slightly longer introduction to his dependents.
Can you explain the dependents again?
So dependents should be people, or it could be like a group. Human faces are good because if it's like, I support like the orphanage, right? Like I'd like if you put down the orphanage, but we'll have to have some NPCs in play, right? For that. But it's things that you support that keep you like grounded. This is a reason why you live in this enclave and you keep up there beyond mere survival, because otherwise you'd just crack and you'd be driven out, or you would go out there, you would murder these people in their sleep and take their food. And like you're a human being. What is it that makes you a human being here? And that is how, keeping them maintained. And that one bounty doesn't necessarily be like, I pay for their cost of living. It could be like the bounty represents the time that you spend with them, or the effort, the lost earning fee. Because everybody in the enclave basically lives like a subsistence lifestyle to a certain extent. The vast majority of people, they're safe, they can feed themselves, but they can't do extra stuff. You're the reason why these people can do something extra, or they don't need to work or whatever, right? Like, so people often go with my wounded, my wounded friends, or I
was thinking about somebody on the leper colony that I support.
Yeah, because not every latent wants to be a thingy, like a taker, right? Just because you're immune to the blight doesn't mean that you want to go punching zombies. Or that you can, latency doesn't turn you into a superhuman. You're still a 70-year-old asthmatic if you get turned into a latent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. I'll start with whoever's, if anyone wants to give me a thumbs up, and I'll go left to right, or I'll just start with whoever's ready for introduction of characters and then move around the character keeper. Yeah, so Lowell's ready. And then Jim's nodding. So that's Lowell, Jim, and then we'll go back to Horst, and then Paul will do it in character keeper order this time. So Lowell, if you'd like to introduce your character and your dependents.
So I imagine Arbite, real name Greg something. I think last names are gone at this point. He is in his young 20s. So he was a teen kind of when all of this went down. He was always a kid who was going around and kind of hustling for things. He was the kid who hung around the game shops in town and wheedled and traded magic cards and scammed younger kids and shoplifted Warhammer and all of that stuff. This is that kid that I know well from managing a game store, and Jim knows as well, who was around all the time, super nice. Everybody liked him, but they also knew he was probably doing some shady shit under the counter.
And your petty thievery, I imagine, landed you at the reform camp.
Well, right? Actually, no. I'll tell you how I got there. He has enough speed to be able to run. So athletics, have got that, and invested heavily, of course, in all of the charisma skills. Not so good at his intimidation or leadership, that's not his strong suit. But everything else, very good with. And he's somebody who managed to hang on to a laptop and keep it running after the fall. I imagine that I've got 3 dependents. One of them is basically a friend who was here at the camp, in that way of they were trying to pray the gay away or whatnot. Okay. And he's actually the one who got me in here. Like he, when things started to go wrong, he was like, come out here, and that's kind of how I got slid into things. But I think that he's been caught back and forth between his own sort of Christian upbringing guilt and his self-identity, and he's kind of moved back and forth between the different groups. But he's my dependent. I don't have names yet. I'll get names later. I'm just giving you roles right now.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Yeah. But I imagine that he
we will before we go too far into them, we will see these dependents in vignettes at the start. We will choose a dependent and you will act out a scene so we can, and what I'm hoping to do is that another player will take over that, and then you can say you were, the guy who invited me here, that sort of level.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
I just conscious that you have 2 more of them, and then
and then I think I dragged along my younger brother, significantly younger. He, if I'm in my 20s, he might be only 10 or 11. There were other kids here because it was a camp, so it wasn't too hard to kind of drop him in amongst that mix. And then of course there's a girlfriend. I've got a charisma of 3, so it is the present girlfriend of the moment.
Nice.
So those are gonna be my three dependents.
Nice. And girlfriend is a perfect one for why am I, the bounty is not that I'm paying for everything in a life, it's the fact that I'm going out on dates and I'm supporting somebody else in their problems and stuff,
right. The other thing I mentioned, the reason I called him Arbite is I do imagine that I'm serious about the whole game store thing. He did hang around there, and I imagine he keeps his eye out for 40K shit and stuff like that, and he has a stash of game crap that he's collected.
This is not even the nerdiest Red Markets concept I've
absolutely.
It's close.
I think you mean satanic game crap.
Yeah.
Cool. That is Arbite and his 3 dependents, A, B, and C, as they currently known in my notes. So, Jim, if you'd like to go next.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to change my screen name so that I had Shanti's name on there. I'm Shanti Chitrakar. I am a Nepalese. I think I'm a, second generation American. My mother came here. And when all this went down, I was on one of these week-long mountain biking excursions in the neighboring forest in the national park there. And I really it's beautiful. You take the bike off the car, you grab your pack, you cycle between the cabins and stuff like this. No phone, no contact with the outside world. It's amazing. And then, I got back out and everything had, exactly. Yeah. And so that was
watching the sunrise from a sheltered place. It's been oh, it's so beautiful out here.
Yes,
I'll stay even longer.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I left my Ubik my Ubik specs back in the car, right?
Yeah.
This is perfect.
That kind of thing. And so one of my possessions is actually a bike, is a battered mountain bike that that I rode across that bridge with. that is, one of my most prized possessions. But yeah, I think like at the time I was probably like a grad student or something like that. And so now I'm gonna be like, late 20s, something like that. So yeah,
I just put late 20s down to mean anything past 25, basically. Yeah. And who is your dependent?
My dependent is the Rugrats. And the Rugrats are a group of maybe, I want to say like half a dozen orphans of varying ages from like 5 through like 8 or 9, who basically there's not a lot they can do. So literally that's what they do, is like they weave baskets and like, make rugs and stuff like this and everything. Nice. And like nobody seems terribly concerned about like getting them any schooling or anything like that. So I am like teaching them to read on the sly.
Okay. Or paying people to teach them things, right? Like, come on, I know you've got work to do. Look, I'll cover your costs for the day. Go and teach them how to do some stuff, right?
Yep.
Helps teach them. And yeah, I love that. I'm imagining like you buy them like materials and things, right? Like, because they're not going to be able to claim their own, but you're like, look,
well, I mean, I imagine it's more like, they're like assigned to a cabin and the nuns bring them stuff and they're like, put this together.
Yeah. They're like a little workforce almost.
Yes. Yep.
It's like the Poorhouse. Oliver Twist, had the right idea. Nice.
Maybe a tiny nod to a Simpsons episode in there. So
yes.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna write Camp Krusty workers in my notes. Cool.
We force them to make wallets for export. Yeah, that's.
And now Horst.
So I'm playing Backslash, and I imagine that she was a nurse. She's, I think she's older than the other two. She's probably in her 40s. She was a nurse in New Gauntlet City. Is that to the west or to the east? We don't know.
It's a direction away from.
I was imagining when New Gauntlet
I'm almost imagining to the east, because if it's towards the east, then that means that it was between you and the Mississippi, which is one of the reasons why you weren't able to get over the line, right?
Yeah,
so there was too many like seas in the area.
So she was probably working in a hospital somewhere in the western part of the town, and when the city was overrun, she fled, and with her then boyfriend Jeremiah, who we found out is a latent.
I'm imagining I now know who your dependent is.
Yes, that is my dependent indeed. I want to say ex-boyfriend, but she feels really like guilty and responsible for him. And maybe the whole finding a cure is like her personal guilt trip.
And I mean, that's probably caused some tension, right? Because do you look at him as like a person, or as really like he's a latent, so he's the test subject at the end of the day, right? Like,
I don't want to think about it that way, but
but there was, it's like a Freudian slip almost sometimes, right? Like, oh, that's a new blight growth there, Jeremiah, and you're not immune either, right? So that's a problem. Like, no relationship can survive not being able to touch at all.
Exactly.
For fear of turning the other person into a ravening monster.
And so there's the responsibility of visiting him for, personal reasons, but also professional reasons. And also, you can't just let him be on the leper island.
Yeah.
I think she probably did kendo or aikido or something, which would explain why she's so good at sword fighting.
Yeah. Took kendo lessons for fitness.
Yeah, exactly.
They translated.
For some reason, that is helpful all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly your way out of the city was you went to go get your sensei from the kendo gym, right? And then he staggered out with his sword, and you were just like, no!
Exactly.
Covered in blood. Nice. And then finally, Paul.
The pen that I'm going to go with is Sister Mary, who was my wife. And we were latecomers to the island. We've spent quite a bit of time out in the loss, trying to get to safety. And when we got here, we let it loose that she is actually immune. So she's now sort of held by the community. And yeah, now she's at a distance from me. And she's slowly being indoctrinated into. I think we were both quite religious people. That fits with the black math.
Well, that would even be maybe another source of tension, right? So maybe she's not that religious, but she's being forced to be, whereas you've gone full blown, like, this makes sense. This makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. So that's my dependent, an immune ex-wife, now Sister Mary.
I like that because the sisters break up this kind of thing when they become immune, right? And it's like there's a time and a thing, but like it's become such a burden on the whole place within the Enclave. So you're black math. You came to the Enclave, and all of this made so much sense, right? Like
at the start.
Yeah. Are there other black math people here, do you think? Or do you think that you're like the...
No, I think there's others here. I think the thing that's really driven my character over the edge is that we had a child. And yeah, the Hordes got our child.
So yeah. How will you ever settle that equation? Yeah.
And I've got a soft spot for stuff for not the little children. So yeah, kids feature quite largely in my character's drive.
Nice. I've written black math beliefs are scattered, but for takedown it's personal. Nice. It's personal. Okay, so that's all of our characters. I think we're a little bit too late in the time slot to do any of the prep work, or I'll just thank you all for building Camp Lazarus, New Gauntlet City. On the next session, I'll just quickly go over the play cycle, right? And the play cycle is on the rule cheat sheet, column N, row 34. It starts at. And basically you have upkeep. We assume that you got paid on your last job, or you didn't get paid, and now it's time to pay up all of your costs. Can you do that? And then we do vignettes, like we spend, one of the person plays the dependent, the other person plays themselves, and we see how your support goes. And that's just a bit of role play, really. There are mechanics that are attached to it, but I find them a bit too cumbersome and punishing to really go with. I'd prefer just to, you definitely gain your humanity back. That way I can punish you more in your humanity damage. And then there's prep work, where you go looking for a job. And there will always be, depending on how well prepped I am, more than one job to find. And then it's up to you to choose which one. You can do more prep work to find out, like, how much will one pay? Or what would this one particularly require of us? Or who might outbid us on a job this time, Like, what other taker groups are there? Because I can definitely see the Brotherhood wanting to step out and do some work, right? Depending on the contract, or maybe even the Sisters, or, not the Rugrats, but...
And I just want to be clear, does outbid means underbid?
Exactly,
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Underbid.
okay. All right, yeah, because it's the gig economy, yeah.
Yeah, and then we go to the negotiation, which, like I say, is a separate thing, which we will play on the negotiation tracker, which will kind of track like the negotiator and the thing. Lowell will do the negotiation. In between every round of negotiation, you will get to do a scam, which is like a sort of like non-linear, what did you do to give your negotiator the advantage? Did you like take out the competition, or did you try and like rig the market so that the demand goes up, or the product that they want is in scarcity? So you can change the price, or you can find out more about the client and what they want, and basically give Lowell their tough, weak, and soft spots. And people will come back and offer different jobs. So their weak and soft spots won't change from job to job, but their tough spot is related to the job. It's why this job is needed right now for them, basically. You only get one set of prep work and one set of scam work for every go. So if you mess up in the negotiation, you cannot just walk away and go for another job because it pays less. Or if you get to the end of it and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do that. Because they don't give you all the details of the job until you've negotiated, right, a lot of the time. Otherwise, somebody else might go and do it and steal it out from underneath them. And then we have the job part of the game, which is traveling. Every job site requires some travel to get there. You spend a ration, depending on if you scout ahead or whatever, you might get the heads up. If you don't scout ahead, you might walk straight into it. I roll on a table. It's an opportunity to make more money a lot of the time. It's also an opportunity to get hurt. The game sort of leans towards like 3 legs as the minimum sort of thing. I'm probably just going to do 2 most of the time, just for time's sake, right, to compress it into a Gauntlet time slot. And then we have the job site itself, where you'll actually do the job that you came for, which will have other opportunities, complications, etc. Sometimes it might be like a leg and a job and then another leg. Sometimes the job just might be like all legs, basically, like as you travel from one place to another. And then we have payment. And did you hold up your end to the client or not, right? Which might require some checks depending on how frivolously you are engaged with it. No one pays up front in red markets, by the way. So, yeah. And that'll be the play cycle. So we will start off next session with a vignette, I think, right? Like just a quick one, just a quick one each, and then we will go straight into prep work. Does that sound good to people? Cool. Thanks, guys. If you have a quick time I think stars is on the low front, because it's just prep session. But if you'd like to add any wishes, now's probably the time, right? And you can throw in the stars at the same time if you have any. And Jim, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. Like stars for our collaborative process, where I really liked the way that we had people who, like, someone would throw out an idea and it would be imperfect or incomplete, or someone would have say, well, here's the issue that I'm seeing with that. And then we kind of kicked that around until we got something that actually worked with that original idea, rather than, just like nuking stuff and, putting up a whole new thing. I really like the way that came together.
Cool. Do you have any wishes?
Yeah, I want to, I really, really want to see how we all negotiate living in the same cabin together. That's gonna be the whole almost kind of like borderline sitcom level thing of us trying to figure out how to negotiate a common space is something that is of interest to me.
I like that, and with that in mind, I will always give people the opportunity to, rather than play a dependent scene in a vignette, they can, especially given that most of you only got one, right, play a domestic scene, right, or like something with your crew, basically. Cool. Thanks, Jim. I'll go back around to the side of the character keeper. Paul?
Nice quick play tonight by everybody. We weren't sort of time sunk by nothingness. So yeah, really good. Going forwards, let's just kill some zombies. I'm not a man that wants much.
Yeah, don't need to worry about that. That will definitely happen.
I am a simple man.
Horst?
That's fine.
Yeah, I can only exactly mirror what Jim said. I like that the Enclave Creation was very very smooth. There was no personal it has to be this way. Everybody was willing to give and take. I like that a lot. I really like our enclave. I like the island and the bridge, and
it's certainly nothing I imagined from the. I had like a summer camp, right, but not with all of the other bells.
And that's the beauty of collaborative world building with the religious touch, and the leper colony, perfect. And also, I want to mirror what Jim said about interpersonal scenes. The cabin itself can be fun, but in general, like, how does the different ideologies or goals clash?
When you indulge your spots as well, right? Like, it's very rare that your other friends will be happy with how you've behaved in that scene, or when you screw each other for bounty, or you accidentally shoot each other in the legs or something, right? Like,
and on the other hand, we do have to work together, so that's
one of the notes in the book is your co-workers are not your friends.
Nice.
And finally, Lo.
This is very fun. Actually, one of the things is the book makes it, I think, look more complicated in character creation than it actually is. I think it's actually a pretty simple system, with only like the specializations being like one of the hanky parts. I don't think I have any real wishes. I will say I will read through all of that negotiation stuff, because it is a significantly separate, different mini game. So I'm going to put the time in to be ready to make that as frictionless as possible.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the way you should think of the negotiation, they're at one end, you're at the other end, and you're trying to push against each other, and they'll automatically move one forward. You have to work for your one forward, just this forward, and you push back and forward until the end, when they go to the same spot, or they go to the same spot, but I read that dozens of times before playing it, and then was like, oh, that's how it works.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for persevering is the wrong word, but doing a world building session and everything. Like, part of me was just like, should I just do a pre-made one and just like, this is yours and that's that kind of thing. But I did really want to sort of like build like around New Gauntlet City, and we can have this enclave here and all of these things. And then, if ever in Red Markets again, maybe it'll be one of the neighbors of this place, and we'll have this as an NPC enclave, which we already know a hell of a lot about, right? And the Crusade will be the legends that did all of those things. But yeah, cool. Thanks very much, guys. Jim, if you'd like to stop the recording.